Good evening and welcome to Vital. I have the luxury of being able to let you guys get a few seconds to come in and rock with us. So come on in the room. I am Lady Wu, and I guess you know that because you're on my page. And we are live and in full effect. For those of you who would normally listen through your radio, I do apologize for not being there, but I will explain in just a moment. But I do want to give you guys time to get into the show, to get this great conversation that's happening tonight. Come on in, come on in. So there will be snippets of this show shown throughout the week, and I'll probably play some back. I will probably play some of them back throughout the show this week. I'll be returning to the airwaves this week after a bout with COVID-19. We are back and in full effect in Lady Wu's Midday Groove. So let's get straight to the show, everyone. Let me pull you guys up so that I can see all of your comments. Get you straight, get you popping. Perfect. All right, so here we go. Tonight's show is going to be great. I have two special guests for both hours of the show. First one in now, Miss Tyra is joining us. Hey, Tyra.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm great. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So what you're doing is super vital, which is why we're going to get straight to it. We know that November 3rd is right around the corner, and we got to get this guy out. We gotta get him out.
Sorry for that man. I don't know that man. I don't know.
We gotta get him out. So before we get to anything, tell me a little bit about yourself, what you do and what you're representing tonight.
Yeah, so my name is Tyra Robinson. I am a graphic designer, art director, recent muralist. I work at Big Communications, and I also want to do a lot of social justice work whenever I can. And so this is one of the biggest steps that I've took, and I hope that I send a lot of good energy and good information out. But yeah, I am just an artist. That's my title.
Okay.
I'm an artist.
Artist life. So I get it. I get the transition to moving politically now. So you said you're a muralist. Where can people see your work, or where has your work been?
Yeah, so I recently did a mural downtown in Birmingham, right across from Alabama Theater. And there are three portraits of Sandra Bland, one of Orlando Castile, and of Jordan Edwards. And it's called Unforgotten.
The black and white.
Yeah.
That's you.
Yeah, that's me.
I have pictures in front of those. Those are some of the dopest.
Wow, thank you so much.
Great work. Okay, I did not know that. So through your work and with you deciding to, be a part of the mural work that happened after all of the social injustice and everybody and the uprising, the current uprising, it motivated you politically to actually start something. And tell us about what you started.
So this came out of, this birth from COVID. Just there was like a lot of I wouldn't say negativity, but chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, either I use that energy to drown myself in sorrows, or I could use that energy to direct it towards something that can make an impact. And so I chose
yeah,
so
for sure.
Out of that, my question to myself was like, where are all the good people at? Because a lot of times you go on social media and you only see the negative. You only see the bots. You only see the people who talk. But, there's also people who don't comment a lot. There's people who are silent. And so I decided to kind of use this as a wake-up call and say, good people vote.
Good people vote. I love that.
And that's the name of the organization, yes.
And I was just about to ask you, so is Good People Vote an organization? Or is that just how sometimes we'll have a movement that just has a name and it is exactly what it says it is. But this is an actual organization.
It's an organization.
Okay. So I look, the one of the comments, the first comment in tonight says we must remove this thing. And for those of you who may just be getting in, this is the thing that our commenter is talking about. So when you talk about voting and how you've been encouraged to start Good People Vote, just tell us a little bit about some of the work that you're doing leading up to the election.
Yeah.
This particular election, but Good People Vote all the time.
Yeah. So the goal for Good People Vote is to basically be a place where, if you don't know or aren't currently in tune with what's going on, you can go to the site and we will offer this information, digestible information, just on a human scale, where you can just read it and say, hey, what does the district court judge just things where
right, education as well.
Right, exactly. And a lot of things that I didn't know, I remember like in the primaries being in the parking lot looking up some names on the ballot that I didn't really know who was going to be on, and I'm wondering, like, what if there was a platform or a place where you can go and read up on what these people stand for, because a lot of times we drive around the community and we just see a yard sign that says, vote for so-and-so, vote for, but you don't really know who am I voting for? And so I want this to be a place where everybody in Birmingham can go and just read up on the latest about, I want to change the culture of politics. So
that's what's up. With Good People Vote and the creativity behind it, I think that you actually have what it takes to make sure that you change the landscape of politics in Birmingham. When young people get out and they decide to take a stand and say something, however they say it, either through platforms like what you're talking about that you created or through your art, people are moved by messages. So I'm just so happy that you're doing this. Where can people find more information about Good People Vote?
So yes, we are in the early stages. If you go to www.goodpeoplevote.org, that's our official web page. We also have Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, and those are all Good People Vote as well. And you'll also see us on November 3rd at 6th Avenue Baptist Church, and we will be having a place. Basically, I want to throw a party at at 6th Avenue Baptist, of course, 30 feet away. But we want to give out shirts, hand sanitizers, and just resources to celebrate the people who are choosing to vote. And be there for them during the pandemic.
Awesome.
And mask as well.
So are you like with Good People Vote? Okay, mask, hand sanitizer, shirts, and all these different things. With your organization, is it a bipartisan organization? Is it, are you telling people who to vote for? Or are you just encouraging people to exercise the right to vote?
Yes, encouraging.
Or both.
When the time comes, you have to stand for good things. But we are reaching towards a 501c3. So, to have that nonpartisan and allow people to make up their minds, and just bring that good energy out. And so you can know, maybe you can be led into voting for good. So, yeah.
I love it. So, we're just thinking about history and so much has happened. You said like since COVID happened, this is when you were inspired. And I know we can talk about all of this all night and we can have an hour to talk about it. So like, what are some of the major things that happened that inspired you to really like some of the major things that are, that touched your heart? Was it RBG? Was it what has it been for you?
It started all the way back with Trayvon. I think that was like the first time.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I started paying attention. Everybody was kind of still and in shock. For me, I was, definitely in shock because I never, thought that it existed. And so, in college, I actually did the Unforgotten piece as my Bachelor of Fine Arts for the gallery exhibition. And with that, I decided to continue to do that and put it up on a mural with the help of, bare hands and a lot of muralists out there who helped me with that.
Okay.
Short. I couldn't read that.
Okay.
But then, I decided to also let's turn it up a bit, let's be there for people. And with the quarantine, it kind of opened my eyes to, the fact that we do need each other and we have to be able to speak up and be there for one another. And so there's just so much, it was so much to take. It was so much to bear, especially, being a Black person in United States.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of need that community back. And so I wanted to create something where we just give the resources to the community, but you do what you are already meant to do, which is to do good. And so
do good. Very simple. I love it. So I know you weren't expecting this, but since we are virtual, you had people are in our homes with us. And I guess I should explain, first of all, why we're not on the radio tonight. So my birthday was yesterday, October 10th.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. It always flows over into the week and into the rest of the month. It's like a whole celebration for everybody that I'm, that I'm connected to. So I was headed to the station and I was like, you know what? I need to go ahead and get set up. So at my house, I can run and get things and bring things in, and it works. So what I'm going to ask you to do is go and get some of your work to show people how skilled you are. I know exactly, because I have pictures in front of your work. So I'm honored to be talking to you, because I was like, oh, that's so dope. And I got on the black dress and I love black and white.
Yeah.
They were perfect for me. I even had some of the other murals that people were not knowing what to do with. I got them. They're in my house, and I'll show you guys that shortly. Yes. Let me see if I can show you right quick. Let me see if I can show you. No, I'll show you in a minute. I'll show you guys in the commercial break. But I'm honored. I'm really honored to have you here to talk about this thing and to possibly show some work. Yeah. So you think about what you can bring in the camera, and we'll keep talking.
A lot of doom in the back.
Do what you need to do. Do what you need to do, and I'll read some comments while you move around and get what you need.
So you want me to write
down? Yeah, get some stuff. I'll shout out some of our viewers.
I'll be back,
on the live. Let's see who we have, guys. Who's on here, and I'll shout you out while she gets her work. I see Loretta Rogers. Hello, excellent idea. Vote, everybody. Hey, LeBeau, Mike Johnson. Hello. Coach Mike, Delois, hello. Hey, Carl. Hey, Steve. Hey, Christy. Hey, Dee. Hey, Willie. Hey, everybody. So good to see you guys. Welcome to the show if you're just coming in. Miss Anita, hello, and thank you so much. So if you're just tuning in, just viewing tonight, I have a special guest in our virtual studio, Miss Tyra, and Tyra is representing Good People Vote, an initiative that she started. I guess it started a long time ago in her heart. And basically she just told us, I started this a while back, but right now I'm acting on it. It's an organization. We're working on some things. You guys are going to see us out. We're encouraging you to vote. So that's what we're talking about tonight with Miss Tyra. And she's gone now to get some of her work. So hopefully you guys will be able to see it. And if you're downtown, you're riding around, go check her work out. I want to say it's across from the Alabama. It's directly across from the Alabama, or at least it was. So if you know where Alabama Theater is, you can find her work. It's very, very vital. That's what we're doing tonight. And then second half, I don't need you all to go anywhere. And if you do go somewhere, go and come back. But we have doctors from the health department coming to join us and talk about COVID from another perspective. So I've been nailing it in to make sure that you all understand how important it is to continue social distancing and all those things, different research in the county. But all of that is happening. And I need you guys to know what's going on. I'm going to bring Miss Tyra back on screen so that we can see.
Y'all don't understand. So I'm 14 and a half. You got to add the half.
Okay.
So I reached all the way. There was a few things that fell, but that's fine.
But we didn't hear it and you didn't get hurt.
Great. That's all.
You didn't get hurt, did you?
No, I didn't.
Okay, good.
So the first thing is, well, I'm wearing it. I didn't even have to read.
Okay.
So this is something. Speak with your vote. This is part of Good People Vote, and these are the shirts that will be there on November 3rd. Also, so of course, I have so many versions of the Unforgotten piece. I had initially it was a laser cut piece on felt fabric, but I also, have it on well. And so this is like I just keep bring it up.
Yeah. And you do this with your hand, or is this like, do you do all digital work?
Yeah. Well, no, this was not with my hand. This was cut, but
that's still like super.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I love like my goal is, of course, I'm continuing with the piece.
Yeah.
And I will be doing like as many as I can. My goal is to have 24 by the end of it was gonna be December, but we're gonna move it to next year. But the goal is to have to do as many of these pieces as I can, because I want this to fill the room. Just so people can see and understand that, these were people and they had families.
Yes.
They had interests just like us. They have lives. And so I just want this to like fill a whole room, just so that we can kind of, grasp the weight of this,
Yeah.
to,
and not forget about these people.
Exactly. And then just most importantly, I always add the families, because, these are the people who have to take this home with them, and just to kind of like reach out to that empathy, and that, because, with social media, we are just able to digest so much content, that it kind of
yes so much.
We can literally watch someone die and then swipe down and see a funny video, and that change, it affects well. Just to be able to, have something where I can work on and learn about them and learn about their lives, that is something that I have to continue doing. So
that's absolutely amazing. I'm so happy to be having this conversation with you, and I encourage you to keep doing what you're doing. It has inspired, I know from the comments on social media, it has inspired us to another level to continue to serve and continue to get the word out for people to use their voice. So speak with your vote. Say what you have to say with your vote. And that's so important. And then it registers, it connects, like it registers, because not only are we talking about police brutality and things like that, but you've incorporated people's actual lives. Like police brutality is one thing, but when people are killed by the police, that's another thing. Then when your administration, your politicians kind of say that, well, that's okay, they were doing their job, they were doing what they were supposed to do, it absolutely makes you have to know that you must speak with your voice. Right. So I'm behind you.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm behind you.
And like a lot of times with that, it used to like weigh me down,
Yeah.
When you hear about, Breonna Taylor's case, and, one thing that kind of changed my perspective on it is that, at the end of the day, there's so much, or there's like only a certain amount of justice that humans can do, but there's no justice compared to God's justice.
Wow.
And so regardless, even if they did, give the police officers what they deserve, we're just humans, and they have to answer to that, not us. So it will not affect us. It will not affect our outcome, because everyone has to die, and so always just remember that like singularity of, you can be in a group, the group can agree on everything, but at the end of the day, when you die, you die alone, and so you answer for your decisions. And so that, that all of
So
this,
yeah, looking at it this way,
you know, you know,
looking
like
at it from a spiritual level, it makes it real. Like you said, it brings about a component that reminds people that this is not just a momentary thing. This is our actions go way deep, and even our decisions not to be politically involved. Like all of this,
exactly,
all of it is, it's all together. It's all vital. I really appreciate what you're saying.
exactly, and just making the decisions based on not whether I'm Democratic, not whether I'm Republican. It's because I'm good, and just kind of getting us out of that idea of like I have to die with my party. Like it's not a game. It's not an Alabama versus Auburn type of. These are people's lives, and so you
Right.
have to do the research. You have to know what things mean because we're humans.
True. Thank you so much for your drive. Thank you for with the words that you've imparted tonight. Like I came on tonight just to talk to my guests. Like I don't have anything to share because I just been celebrating and enjoying my life. So like you think of those who can't and those who whose lives have been cut short at the hands of others. It makes me so much more grateful to be able to be here to have this conversation with you. And it also makes your mission so much more important. This is what it's about. Making sure that we vote to remember those and then to protect those of us who are still alive. Like your vote is that important. So one comment that I want to share with you, Tyra, I'm so excited to see you young women being a part of the solution. Job well done. And I totally agree. Shouts out to you for doing what you're doing. So what's your contact information?
Say it again.
Your contact information?
Oh yeah. Hi at Good People Vote. So HI like hello.
Yes.
peoplevote.org. And also hi, like hello at TyraRobinson.com. I love hi, like and you can reach me there. And also on my social media, Good People Vote. And so that is the contact information for now.
Awesome. So speak directly to the people. Let them know what you need them to do for November 3rd, how they can find out information about your organization, how they can be a part of. Just speak directly to the people.
Yeah. So definitely zoom in. On November 3rd, we will be at 6th Avenue Baptist Church. We, as in me, Crystal Smitherman, which is the district counselor for District 6, Gear Up Alabama, and just other volunteers. We will have a great time. Voting is a celebration. It is not jury duty. And we are just here to celebrate you for your decision to vote in person and vote at all, during a pandemic. And, we're just here. We're out here. So thank you so much.
For sure. So you can hang around.
Zoom in.
That's the split screen. That's the individual screen. Boom. You have to have your own time with the people. So guys, you have this young lady's information. I think it's amazing what she's doing to step out and let her voice be heard and encourage others to do the same. So support her. She's on because this is so vital. Thanks to the person that connected us and got you on tonight. I think that's even more amazing. Yes. Talking about some things that are coming up and some things that have been happening, you guys. Everybody has been really tuned in to the president having COVID-19. So Tyra, if you want to stay on and hang with me and talk about that before the doctor comes on, feel free to just let me know. But this conversation, it started off like people had, and we can speak to the empathy of it. That's the part we'll talk about. Like, dang, what if he dies? Like, dang, what if the president dies? And as a mental health professional, that was rather troubling for me that, this is where we are. This is where we are, honestly, as people that live in America. As Americans, I guess 50% of Americans were saying like, oh my God, this may be the opportunity to finally get him out. The other 50% saying, oh my God, he's got to pull through. COVID cannot kill our president. And I wasn't, I don't wish that on anybody, but what I'm thinking is like, is that what we've come to as a society, that we sit up and don't know how to feel about people that, You see what I am? Well, like what I was thinking about. This is what I was thinking. I'm like, dang, this how we
like,
feel.
should I look? Here was the thing. So I had to get off of social media during that time. I was like, no, I gotta stay focused, and like it's of course you gotta pray, and so like my prayer was reveal yourself through him. Like that, I was like, that's good enough, Lord. I'm trying. It was then that was it. Like I had to, and just disconnect myself. And so I understand it's like you don't want to celebrate someone getting sick because number one, that can affect you. That can, you never want to be a part of that at all.
Yeah. It was that's so crazy. Yeah, like everybody's trying to figure out how to feel. Like, should I feel bad for feeling this way? Should I think this way about feeling this way? Because this is somebody who said that COVID was a hoax. COVID wasn't real. So then to like here, we don't know for sure. We would assume that, yeah, he got it. And so did the people in his cabinet. They all got it. But it was amazing, more so than the president contracting COVID because he's still human and he's susceptible just like the rest of us. Right. More than anything, what was mind-blowing to me was the way that we all were kind of sitting on the edge of our seats waiting to see what would happen.
See, the Simpsons.
That's
and that's why I had to just be like, oh no.
Yeah, I mean, wow. So that's just what I've been. I don't know. Anything else? Has anything else stuck out to you in the news this week?
Did you kind of feel like it was fake?
I'm still debating.
I'm
still debating.
Okay, look, because I was like 2 days, unless he had it for longer, it just didn't tell nobody.
And that's basically what they're thinking. Like, okay, he knew what was going on before somebody else contracted it, or before he actually reported his symptoms. This is what. Like I'm going to get out and still do my campaign events. I'm still not going to wear this big mask because he thinks they're big and they're crazy. So,
I was thinking like, is this his way of promoting his cure? Because, he was saying that, he wanted this by the end of November. So just use this like, to say this, we have a cure. They just don't want to, they don't like me. So they don't want to release it.
Yeah, and now I want everybody to try remdesivir because it worked and it made me feel so much better. So right. I really don't know, but I do know that in the next half we will have professional doctor that has worked right. No, just self-diagnosed. No, the doctor that is studying one of the doctors that is studying COVID-19 and how it's affecting people in Jefferson County. That's what's coming up in the second half of the show. So I'm trying to get him in a little bit earlier tonight, so that we can go ahead and go forth with our conversation. It's important. I think it's just so important that we continue to have these conversations about things that are really happening in society from an educated standpoint. It's fun to post memes and gifts and stuff like that. But the real life conversation about how to protect ourselves and what to be aware of in this day and age is so important. So I just hope that every time we crack the mic, every time we open the screen, that people are being educated or at least inspired by our show. So I thank you for joining me tonight.
Yes, I appreciate it and I love it. I always listen.
Thank you so much.
It's a dream to be on this station.
That is an honor for you to even say that, because a lot of people don't realize like how, there was a point we couldn't be on radio and now here we are on our own. So I really appreciate that.
And good content.
Thank you so much. Well, Tara, thank you for joining me. We will be in touch because good people do vote and we want to support you. Voting is vital. So we'll be in touch. Thank you for joining me tonight.
Thank you so much.
For sure. Have a good night.
You too.
All right, guys. So Miss Tyra joined us talking about good people vote. And I think that's so important. I know that most of you who watch us are already registered. Some have already voted. So this is the first time ever that I did early voting. I went to the courthouse just kind of I didn't know if I was going to vote that day or if I was going to request the ballot. I voted that day. And there are some amendments on the ballot this time. that may catch you off guard, some that don't apply to our county, and some that you don't know. Like typically everybody thinks I'm going in to vote for the president. That's all I'm doing. And I'm going to go straight down party ticket. Even if you vote straight down your party ticket, these amendments are still there. So I was looking to pull those up and I didn't. I didn't want to just keep pausing because I actually have some company in tonight because of the other pages. Shouts out to everybody who's watching for the first time on the B94.9 page. But this is something that we do all the time, every week. We've been live for years on social media. I'm looking for the amendments now. And if somebody is watching that could help bring them up, that would be awesome. But I'm going to look. Hold on a second, guys. Just bear with me while I get this information. It's vital that you know. So let's see. Hold on. Okay. So we have 4 amendments that we'll be voting for. And it is so important. Like now with it, we don't even have a month. We're not even a month out. So less than 25 days away from voting. I'm not sure what the correct number is, but let's see what they are. I do want to discuss them because you don't want to get to the poll and say, oh, wow, so we got some other stuff on here. There were people there when I voted. I voted on October, I don't even know what day it was. Maybe the 3rd. No, couldn't have been the 3rd. I don't know when it was, but it was earlier, last week sometime. And it's going to be so important to know. People were in the ballot and had no idea that there would be other things on the ballot. They had no clue what would be there. All they thought about, or all they knew was president. That's it. So I said that when I get back on the air, and we'll be doing this throughout the week. So Monday through Friday, we'll be doing this as well, talking about these amendments. But let's see, guys. Okay. Let me see. Hey, everybody, stay put, or be sure to come back. The doctors will be in just a moment. I don't like the way this is set up. It's too hard for me to even see. Provides for, okay, so here's one. Yeah, here they are. So the first one states that only a U.S. citizen who is 18 or older can vote in Alabama. That's one of the amendments that'll be on there. And I think that we understand that, but it's in relation to suffrage. So voting, First Amendment or Amendment 1 that'll be on your ballot states that only U.S. citizens or a U.S. citizen who is 18 or older can vote in Alabama. Let's see what the second one is. Sorry, guys, getting a message. The second is for the state judiciary, makes changes to judicial law and court systems and procedures. Goodness gracious. Okay. The third one, provide that a judge other than a probate judge appointed to fill a vacancy would serve an initial term until the first Monday after the second Tuesday in January, following the next general election after the judge has completed 2 years in office. So these, you have to really read through these. I want you to study them on your own time. But basically, when you vote yes or no, you're making a decision if this is what it's going to be or not moving forward. The fourth one authorizes the state legislature during the 2022 regular session to recompile the Alabama Constitution and provide for its ratification. I think that's so important because remember, our Constitution for Alabama was written in 1901. What? So it definitely needs to be looked at and redone. The fifth is that it'll provide a stand your ground law applicable to individuals in churches in Franklin County. And then the other one, the same for Lauderdale County. So provides for stand your ground law applicable to individuals in churches in Lauderdale County. So those are the things that'll be on the ballot as far as the amendment. So y'all study this stuff, please. Don't just wait. It's not just about Trump and Biden. It's not. It's way more to look at than that. That'll be on your ballot. So make sure that you're well educated and you know what's happening. I'm trying to get the doctor on early. So if you guys are still here, show me some love, put something in the comments. And we're gonna try to get this thing on the roll. Perfect. All right. So another thing, let me just catch you all up on the weekend happenings. The reason, first of all, the reason that I am not in studio is my full intention to be in studio again tonight. So returning to the airwaves tonight after being out with COVID-19. Anita, I will definitely do that. Or either you can send me one on any of the live pages that you see, and then on Dana Wu Woodruff, you can find me there as well. That's my personal page. I was out for 2 weeks, so this would have been the night that we returned to the airways for the Abby Award-winning Vital Show. But because it is my birthday week, I had a birthday dinner, and it was with family. So by the time I got up to get ready to go and got on the freeway to head out, and was making good time. Of course, with a little rain in Alabama, things changed immediately. So things changed. I had to jump off and do the show from where I am. So I just pray that you all understand that and will hang around and get this great information from our local docs. All righty then. So I'm trying to find more information. I had some other things gathered for you guys, but while you're still here, if there's anything in the news that stuck out to you, hit me up and let me know, and we can talk about it. We can definitely talk about it. Okay. So guys, what I'm doing right now is just trying to get the guest in earlier, because that's what, tonight's show is about, the guest. It wasn't about me talking about anything outside of what they were talking about. So that's the Good People Vote and COVID-19 from the Jefferson County Health Department. That's what tonight's show about, or what tonight's show is about, and what was scheduled. So I'm just trying to move up the time. As you know, we have 2 hours when we're on air, 7 and 8 o'clock. So the first hour, is typically designated for Vital Crew and our updates, or either whoever the interview is, whoever the person is coming in, whatever the topic is. And then there's a second hour. So our doctors are prepared for the second hour, but there's no reason to wait a whole hour on a night like tonight when we want to get in and get out and get this good vital information to you guys. So that's what I'm doing. The reason that I'm holding my head down and looking at my phone. Okay. So just got a tweet that says George Floyd would have celebrated his 47th birthday on this upcoming Wednesday. So he's a Libra as well. We'll continue to be a force for justice and against police brutality. Let's honor his life and hold police and politicians accountable. And I think that is epically amazing that we're not letting this man's name just fade to black. And the same thing that Tyra was saying earlier, that we have to continue to use our voices and use our votes to keep them alive and keep their memory alive. And these are people that we didn't even know. Like, these are people that we would have walked by and maybe just made eye contact with and spoke to and never saw again if they were still living. But then they became household names. They became a part of our culture because of what happened to them, and what happened to them was not positive. So it's important that we do, keep them alive and make sure that we don't allow this to continue to happen. It has been happening to African Americans since we got here. And, some people say, well, Dana, it's not going to change. Well, it is what it is. No, it doesn't have to be what it is for us. We can live just as freely as others live. I don't know any other race that feels as threatened or as often violated or as disrespected as we do. So it's up to us to get involved in the processes and control our narrative. We can write our narrative. And I be damned if I just sit back and allow the things that I know are wrong to continue to happen because I don't want to exercise my right to vote. Because, I don't really do politics like that. If you don't do politics, politics will do you. If you don't have an opinion about what's going on, where have you been and where do you plan to go? So we have to be active. We have to know what's going on and do our part. We have to do our part. And if we don't want to be the front runner, support those who believe in what you believe in. That's political. That's a part of the process. That's what voting is about. Vote those in who believe, if not all of what you believe, at least something similar to what you believe. So that is what we're looking at. Getting more text messages. Not sure exactly what that pertains to. It's news, but I'm not sure. It's more about the president, guys, and I don't know what that's about. All right. So yeah, I'm not sure. Something from CNN. So hang with me. I'm waiting to get the doctor in. I almost want to take a break and then just bring us back so that you all can get this great information. And I think I'm going to do that. So go ahead and get you a bite, get you a sip, and we will be back in just a few. And we are back. Thank you guys for holding through that break. So, look, I'm going to run it just like we run it in the studio. When we need a break or a sip or to go check a call or whatever it is, we get up and we go and do it during the break, just like I will hope that you did as well. Share the video and let people know that Vital is still vital, even until and off of the air, even until we make it back in the studio. We haven't missed a Sunday, even through COVID-19. We've still been on your radio. So thank you all for supporting. But social media gives us the luxury of being able to air from wherever we are, no matter what's going on. So behind me, you see Sanity That Way, Insanity That Way. So on yesterday, the world celebrated National Mental Health Awareness Day. The week started before, something like that. But anyway, yesterday was the day. And for those of you who know, I am a licensed therapist. So that's what I do for a living outside of radio. And I focus on the African-American population, the African-Americans, as your president loves to say. The African-Americans need a lot of attention when it comes to mental health, mental wellness, and mental illness. And talking about our trauma. So past trauma is a passion of mine. I like to be able to get to know where people have been and what they've been through. And that speaks to a lot of the behaviors that we see, why we act the way we act, why we see the violence that we see, why we eat the foods that we eat. So not only does our journey as a people affect our health, but it affects our mental health as well. So I wanted to speak to that and just kind of give you guys some tips and make you think differently about it. Everybody that you see every day is going through something or thinking about something that they have to tote around with them. And I love to use the analogy of a book bag. And you see, I'm struggling already. If I had to walk around and carry my book bag on my back every day with all of my stuff in it, like no matter what my stuff is, my stuff may be childhood molestation. It may be the loss of loved ones. It may be adoption. It may be neglect. It may be abuse. It may be poverty. Whatever it could be. It could be things that I experienced as I got older. It could be crisis that my family was in, things that I saw at school, something that I heard on the news, whatever. But you start packing that stuff up. You put it in your bag. You keep it. You hold on to it in your mind and in your heart and in your body, because you carry this stuff around with you. And then one day something happened that triggers. Something happens and it's triggered and you don't know how to respond to it. So a big piece of mental health, mental wellness is therapy. Being able to have a conversation with somebody about what you're feeling, what you're thinking. I'm just a little off. And sometimes it's just as simple as I just need somebody to talk to where I can say whatever I want to say about whoever I want to say it about. And I don't have to worry about it being posted on Facebook or it being shared as a, in a group chat somewhere. I just want to come and talk to my therapist and get some insight. And sometimes you may not want insight. You may just want to talk. So I'm here tonight to tell you that there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with having somebody else to talk to outside of your circle of people that you may talk to about things. Sometimes the people that you talk to are the people that you need to talk to your therapist about. So take care of your mental health. Think about it. Think about how important it is. Like if you couldn't think, if you couldn't feel, who would you be? I'm defined by my thoughts and feelings and my spiritual experience, but I have to carry it around in my human experience. And a lot of times y'all don't understand what's going on the inside of people because it's a part of their spiritual process. And if I had to walk around and tell you everything that I was feeling and what I was thinking on a daily basis, you probably wouldn't be able to handle it. So think about your mental health. As soon as your feet hit the ground in the morning, that spirit, that being inside of you, that's mental. Talk about that. Find somebody to share that with when you need to, and don't hold stuff in. When you lose loved ones, don't grieve by yourself. When you lose jobs, don't grieve by yourself. When you get jobs, when you get promotions, don't celebrate by yourself. You got people. There are people who are licensed and very much effective at what they do and how to help. They can coach you through it. They can walk with you. They can point it out for you. That's what we do. So be sure to take care of your mental health. If once this live is over, you realize, well, I don't know where to start by finding somebody. There's a great site called Psychology Today, and you can search for a local therapist. Y'all Google local therapists in the area. Think about how you want your therapist to be. Do you want them to look like you and understand your experiences? Do you want somebody that may not look like you, but you want to get some insight from elsewhere? Think about it and make the phone call. If you want to reach me about that, you can call 205-452-0111. Even if it's to find out about somebody else, we can make that happen as well. But take care of your mental health and take care of those around you. Let's see what's going on. Oh, I got another text about the stimulus debate between the Republicans and the Democrats. Okay. So the stimulus, I'm not hip on what your president is saying about the stimulus right now. I celebrated for a week. Okay. So I don't know what's happening in the news. Like, I was vital in that way. I was vital in celebrating my life. So I don't have a lot of response as to what is going on with the stimulus right now. I know that the Democrats want it one way and the Republicans want it another. Typically, that's how everything is going right now. So if you have insight or you want to share your opinions on it, you can put those in the comments, of course. But as for this moment, I'm thinking about mental health, mental awareness, emotional balance, the perfect balance. Thinking about how to maintain Black mental health. That's what I do know about. I can talk about that and give you a lot of insight on that. And how all of this stuff plays into where we are mentally and emotionally. A lot of people are going through a lot of different things and have been now for almost a year. You think about how long COVID has been around right now. We're almost we could be at a year very quickly. One more season to go and we'll be there. This thing really hit big in March. We'll be there in a minute. And there's still no cure. And some people have not gotten back to going to work. Some people lost jobs. Some people lost loved ones. So that really makes this conversation about mental health and mental awareness and mental illness top of the list. We have to take care of ourselves and take care of those around us. If it's nothing but a text message, to just check on people. Hey, are you living? That's a good one. Are you living? Are you okay? Do you have everything you need? I just want to check on you. And sometimes just checking on people opens the door for them to share with you and, talk to you. Other times it just makes people feel good to know that they're being thought about. So a simple text maybe was needed, but we have to do that for each other. And it does speak to our mental health. It speaks to that. So if you are in need, once again, there are so many resources out now. It's really easy to access now. You don't have to look around and sneak around. It's no longer taboo. People are talking about mental health and self-care and mindfulness and meditation and medicine. We're talking about those things openly now. So, if you just needed that extra push from me, you just got it. So, jump out there, do what you need to do. If you need extra coaching on how to make it happen or when to make it happen or who to talk to, I'm available for that as well. So once again, hello to everyone that is watching from the V949 page, those who are on YouTube, and to my Facebook friends on the Vital Show page and on Lady Woo and on my personal page. Hello to all of you. If you have anything you want to share, feel free to share in the comments. I see comments from the V94 page. I'm looking at them. I'm going to look for them from the others now to add to the conversation. So let's see. Hey, Rodsy. Hey, Mr. Humes. So I'm seeing you guys on here, and I'm just, we got 5 minutes before our second half. Thank you. Hey, Sant. Hey, Seditris. Mario. So these are, hey, everybody. Hey, D. All the shares, all the love. Thank you all so much for all of that. So what we're going to do now is get into our second half of the show. Okay, I see several comments that came through, and I'm sorry, guys, that I didn't see it. Hey, Jermaine. Hey, everybody. So we have Dr. David Hicks on standby with our show tonight from the Jefferson County Department of Health. We've been seeing him. He has become a COVID celebrity, but this is the information that we need. Look at him. No, this is the information that we need, and we need it in a way that's so important because we need people to be aware that it's still happening. So I'm going to go ahead and bring Dr. Hicks in. Hello, Dr. Hicks.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing pretty good.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. This is exciting. So, I'm just ready to get at it. Appreciate
Let's
you
get
letting me come
through
on.
it. For sure, for sure. Thank you to our one of my side bookers who gets great people. She books all of our big interviews. And like I said, you've been all over the place here recently talking about COVID-19 and just what we need to do. And are you overwhelmed with COVID? Like, what is it doing to you? That's the first question. Therapist hat.
No, I appreciate it. You know what? I actually just recently took some time off because we all have to pace ourselves.
Yeah.
Everybody's going through a lot of stressful times. So even all of our first responders. So I made sure my team took some time off and got a breather. So I was the last one to take a little time off. So I'm back in action.
Self-care is so important. So I'm glad that you knew that that was necessary. Hats off to you for that. So your team, where are you and who is your team?
Yeah, so I'm the deputy health officer for the Jefferson County Department of Health. And so we have over 450 employees. So we do our normal public health functions. So, the restaurant inspections, or we monitor air quality. We do our normal disease control things. And so when we came through this outbreak, we had to shift a lot of our staff to start focusing solely on COVID-19. So I have a major, team. It's a major team effort. So yeah, it's just the people that work behind the scenes that no one really knows about, but they do a phenomenal job.
Awesome. So when I hear about a job like deputy anything, I know that that's real. Like that makes it so like, okay, this is serious. So when the deputy comes out and says, hey, this is what you all need to do. You need to take this thing seriously. Wear your mask. What are you seeing at this point? It's October 11th, 2020. This thing really kicked off about March 17th. So from March to October, what is something that you've seen that you really wanted to speak to in a way that wasn't just in a news clip?
Yeah. So, we've seen the numbers trending down. In July. It was really, really, really bad. But it's not going down to zero. So it's just, we think that we get a little bit better. This thing is stubborn and it won't go away. So I think people need to just realize we're still in this for the long haul. I think when things very first started, we were hoping, well, maybe it'll burn out in the summertime. Maybe the heat will make it go down. Maybe it's not that big of a deal. And I don't think that I think we're still going to be talking about COVID into the next year for sure.
So when it first started, were you, even as a doctor, like knowing infectious disease and you studying this, like you have devoted most of your life to studying this, like when we were thinking 2 weeks, a lot of us thought like, okay, so we'll be in the house for 2 weeks and something will happen. You already knew like it would take a long time.
No, right. We were watching this when it was in China. And so behind the scenes, we were looking at it and we started throwing up our alarm saying, this is something different. And so as we saw traveling around the world, there's no way you can stop this from getting into the United States. So it was a matter of when, not if it will come here. But then what we do is we look at history. So when we were looking at, well, what's happened in the past with these outbreaks and pandemics, and this health department's been around for over 100 years, and we've started off by dealing with a pandemic. So we already had some historical, perspective on how this will play out. And then when you start seeing it hitting Washington and then went to New York, then, we were already preparing and saying, we know what's going to get here and we need to jump on top of this. Now, we didn't know exactly how it would pan out, but we already, I think that's one thing that you have to understand is we prepare for major events behind the scenes and their exercises. So you will hope that in your lifetime, you won't have to see this happen in real life. And so we've been practicing for a big, massive pandemic flu or anthrax exposure or anything. So we already have plans that we had worked on. We just have to customize and tailor it to COVID-19. So we completely caught off guard, I should say, although it's still a new thing for everybody.
Gotcha. So you all were working, and I know, like it's so hard to have a COVID conversation without making it political. It's hard to do that. And that's just being honest, not asking your political opinion or anything like that. But do you think that politically, those who represent us did a decent job at doing the same type of work that you all were doing to prepare?
Well, it's very unfortunate this has all been politicized. And I think over time, we're going to really see how politicized it has been behind the scenes. I
Yeah.
mean, to me, I think a fair criticism would be on a national level, because this is something that you can't limit its spread. There hasn't seemed to be a really comprehensive national strategy, and it's almost like we've been piecemealing things as we've gone. And
Right.
I think we've lost the trust of some of the general public because of how that has. So when the federal government is supposed to help guide the local level, and there was a certain point when we were feeling that we were out there on our own, and I think some people may still feel that way, where we said locals, the community saying, we need this to happen in our community. They come to the health department, our local health department, and then we say, well, we don't have it either. We go to the state, and the state says, we don't have it either, wait for the feds. And that's never going to happen, especially in the United States.
Wow. So the work that first of all, the work that you have been doing and the comfort that you've given people by what we've seen from you, like, I think that you've built a rapport with us just from your delivery of what's happening in Jefferson County. So I would first like to just say, awesome job at the way that you've relayed information about COVID-19. I would say that first. Being able to be in a position to really address the fact that people are tired of being inside. So now you've seen people getting out, you've seen bars opening, and you mentioned something about air quality. So in those awesome interviews that you've done where, okay, yeah, we trust Dr. Hicks. We trust Dr. Hicks. And if he says wear your mask, we'll wear our mask, but we still want to go out to eat. We still want to go to concerts and things like that. Air quality. Can you speak to that and then to transmission and how those two go together?
Yeah. So, and I'm just like everyone else. So people view me as just a regular average citizen. I just have maybe a different job elsewhere. So I want to get out too. Right. And and I have family and loved ones where I have to worry about their safety and my safety. So you don't want to be in an enclosed environment. Imagine it's kind of like in a bowling pile where you concentrate infection disease, it's more likely for you to get it. That's why you hear about these super spreader events and these banquets and all these things for people to get, in together or in a church. Now, as far as the air quality goes, and there was a study out in China where they saw that COVID had spread through the air ducts.
Yeah.
And so they had maybe 5 or 6 people in a restaurant, and they tried to figure out what was linking them together, and they tracked it through the ventilation system. Now, that's not I don't say this to scare people, but what happens is how much flow the air was pushing through that duct system. And it was just a bad scenario where those people got it that way. So we still get concerned. Now, I'm not worried that when you're outdoor and you're doing a light jog, walking through the neighborhood, if someone's 10 feet away from you outdoors, I would not get worried that that's going to spread and float through the air and I'm going to inhale it. All right. So if you're outdoors and you're socially distanced, plus wearing a mask, the chance of you getting COVID-19, if you're not touching a surface, is so low. That's why we can comfortably tell people you can get outside and do these things. So just the general air is not the issue. I think as far as air quality goes, it's a kind of a different thing. If you live in an environment where the air quality is poor, you may have higher risk of lung problems already, like COPD, asthma, things like that. So then if you happen to get COVID on top of that, then you're less likely to fare well because your body you've been in an environment that was kind of pseudo toxic in a sense anyway. It's not because of COVID per se. It's the environment that you're already in that sets you up almost for failure. So if you get a chronic disease because of your environment, then certainly if you get COVID at the same time, it's going to give you a lot worse fighting chance.
Gotcha. So those are two different concepts, but at the same time, they're very much related because of the after effects of what can happen because of where you are. And you just mentioned surfaces. So can you clear that up for us? Like, we didn't know if it was airborne. We didn't know if it was we knew it was on surfaces because we had to, people wearing gloves and not touching things and spraying Lysol. But what is it, airborne or is it surface driven? Well,
it's mainly, we call it droplet surface. So imagine you breathe, you cough, you sneeze. Those little tiny particles you can't see, they float in the air as you breathe out or cough out or sneeze out, and they float a couple feet and then they drop and land on a surface. It could be a doorknob, it could be a a railing, and then it sits there.
Okay.
You can't see it because it's invisible. It's a tiny little microscopic particle.
Mhm.
The person comes behind you and they touch that surface. That's how things spread. Or say someone rubs their nose, they don't wash their hands properly after a restroom. They touch a doorknob, you touch it afterwards, and then you happen to rub your nose, don't realize it. That's the main route of transmission. Now, this general air that we breathe, theoretically, it could float in the air, but it doesn't go long distance unless the air is being pushed like a huge fan is blowing it far out.
Right.
So that's why we got worried about people, like say in big churches, right? So imagine so you could social distance in a church, but look at the duct system, the ventilation systems could potentially float particles through. So that's the whole thing about the indoor thing, or in a restaurant. So I'm not trying to pick on churches or restaurants, but just any enclosed space is a higher risk. Doesn't mean it's, you're guaranteed to get it, but it just increases the risk.
That speaks to schools too. Like you didn't pick on, you know what I mean? You didn't pick on schools, but we have school systems opening back up every day and closing every other day because they've opened and they have these systems that you speak of where that's what's happening.
Yeah, but I will say though, and I want to give the schools credit for this, because from the data that we're looking at, when you hear about there's outbreaks or cases in a school, they're actually not really from one child or teacher giving it to another one within the school walls. It's really what happens outside of the school. So you're, on the playground, extracurricular activity, cheerleading, football practice, and then you pick it up there. Then you come into the school. That's what it is. It's really outside of the school itself. The schools are doing a great job of keeping things clean and people distant. So we don't have any cases that we can say that it came from within the school. It's really the extracurricular around the school. It just happens to be there's somebody that came into the school that got it from outside, brought it into the facility.
And I think that's been the concern though from the beginning, that parents will be sick. Like I was sick in my home with my daughter, who's a student. She's not in school right now, but just think about if she was in school, she would have had to quarantine with me. But if she didn't, or if I were one of those parents that was like, well, you don't have it, go ahead and go to school. Yeah, you contracted it from me, but then somebody else's child or a teacher gets it at school. You see what I'm saying? So that speaks to what you're saying about that community spread where you don't know what surface you touched, or
Yeah, because one of the things, and that's why we've got to be careful. If we start focusing on a school or a restaurant or a church, these things, we lose the big picture, right? So we want to blame things on certain institutions, but really it's the overall community's problem and how we handle it, generally speaking, out. That's why the mask and the hand sanitation things are so important. And that has nothing to do with a particular school setting or church setting. It's those are the areas, or you're in a ball field and everybody's concentrated in the stands and packed together. That's going to be a problem.
Okay. So in essence, no matter where people are, COVID is there, and we need to be careful before we are out and about just living how we did pre-COVID.
You're right.
Okay. So when I look at now with the numbers, well, let's talk about this first. Let's not get to numbers first. I want to talk about the example that's being set for coronavirus care and the time for quarantine and things like that. So one of my first tests I did with the county, and I got all the documentation telling me like what to do, how long to stay in, I got everything I needed and I followed those directions. Society does not have a great model as to what to do. Your president is jumping back out, no mask, and taking it off and breathing droplets and just doing everything that he wants to do. And then not even quarantining a full 10 or 14 days. Could you give us the guidelines for what should happen once you test for COVID-19?
Okay. Yeah. So if you get tested for COVID-19, and this is generally speaking, the reason why you got a test was probably because you thought you may have gotten exposed. So if you have potentially got exposed and you need to get a test to say if you have it or not, you should isolate yourself. This is all theoretical. Theoretically, ideally, you should isolate yourself until you get your result back. Because what if you actually were positive, but you were still mingling around, right? Yeah. Now, the only exception to that would be like college campuses where they're making everybody get tested no matter what. There's no
Mhm.
reason to know that you got extra exposure. So we let you pass on that one. But generally speaking, if you're going to get tested, you should wait till you get the result, assuming this result's going to come back in a short span of time, like 2 days,
Mhm.
right? Now, if you are positive, you have to do a minimum of 10 days home mandatory quarantine. You're not leaving. You're not going out in the neighborhood. You own your property, but you cannot leave your property for at least 10 days. It may be longer.
That part I've never heard. I'm so glad that you said, like, you don't need to, when you're positive and you test, when you quarantine, you need to stay at your house.
At your home. That's home. That's the order. It's your residence. So
Okay.
you stay for a minimum of 10 days. And the only way you get out of quarantine and can go back to work would be no fever for 24 hours, no symptoms, but the soonest is 10 days. So you got at least get the 10-day mark. Now, that's for you who's positive. Now, then the next question is, what about people that are exposed? Like we call them high risk contacts. High risk exposure means I was within 6 feet of you for a total time of at least 15 minutes. That's not 15 consecutive. That means I was sitting next to you eating lunch, right? And I exposed you. You were positive. I didn't know it at the time for 5 minutes. Then you get up, and then we were in a meeting together for another 8 minutes. Then later, you add all that up, and it's 15 minutes. I was around you within 6 feet. I am considered now a high risk contact to you. You're the positive case. If I'm a high risk person, and that's high risk contact at work, school, whatever, and in the house, everybody that lives in your household is automatically high risk contact. Then your high risk contact to a positive case has to isolate home for 14 days mandatory. No exception to the 14. You can't get out early. So the funny thing is, what if it's in your house, right? So what if I test positive, I'm the positive person, I'm in my house, and then my spouse hasn't tested positive. I could potentially get off quarantine in 10 days, but my spouse stays on mandatory 14. So people say that doesn't make any sense. What's the difference? Well, I'm already into the disease state, right? So I already have it. But see, if I can expose you to it, if I expose my spouse to it, it takes days for that to build up in your system for you to actually get it. We call that the incubation period. That's why I have to give you 14 days no matter what, because as long as you're close to me, you could get it, and it could take a couple days to manifest in your body. So I give you 14. And so that's with a household contact, a high risk contact, you got to do 14. And the other thing is just kind of funny. So if you test positive in your household and you live with other people, isolate yourself from that person immediately, because they don't get off. Their 14-day clock doesn't start ticking until their last exposure to you. So if you're in the house, and so I'm positive, right? My spouse is not positive, and I'm hanging out, we're sharing the same bedroom, we're in the living room together, whatever it is, then that person is still getting exposed to me. I'm the positive person. So they got to wait till I get off quarantine. If I'm still, and then they add 14 days after that. So what I tell people is
24 days.
It could be 24 days. You're right. So what happens is, as soon as you find that someone's positive in your house, you almost like you put them in jail inside the house. You lock them down in their room, in a basement, so wherever else, and you don't interact. You could bring them food, like a little food tray to the door or whatever, and you do not interact. And that'll give you your 14 days. They're going to do at least 10. That's the shortest amount of time you can get with household members to get off of isolation.
Wow.
It's bad. So what happens is, you don't want to lose any more time off of work and off school and all those things. So that's why you have to be really careful with this thing.
This, like, the way that you're breaking it down is like probably most of our first time hearing it. Like, I actually went through COVID. I got off in time to really have a good birthday and be able to be out. So I did 17 days just to be sure. And by the 14th day, I left home and went out. It was 14 days with no symptoms at 10 days. So, like, I was very, very well aware of what I needed to do and how I was feeling. But the next question was about retesting. So, like, if you test again, and then depending on what kind of test you take and what results you get, that determines what happens next. So what are your recommendations on post-test?
And this has changed, but this is the thing about retesting. If you test positive for COVID, Do not get another COVID test for at least 3 months. I don't care what your job says. I don't care what anybody. Do not. All right.
Okay.
And the reason why is because there's people that have this persistently positive test, and they're no longer considered contagious at a certain point, but a test keeps on turning out positive. So that means they get stuck, right? I've heard of one guy I was talking to. He was on quarantine for 2 months because his test kept on coming up positive. So what happens is, if you are positive, do not get a test. I don't care what your job says. And if they have a problem with it, you say, the health department said don't do another test, and call them up. Because if you get another test, now this is what's happened. I've had people that just got another test. They wanted to see if it was negative after they got a positive one. The next one came up negative, but they were asymptomatic. They did their 10 days. So I told them, ignore that second test. I don't care what it says. You're not contagious anymore. You can go back to work. And I had to write letters to the employer saying, ignore that test. But you don't want to have to get into that whole back and forth, right? So, and then another thing I want to talk about testing real quick. If I'm positive, okay, think about it. I test positive, I'm home, and now my kids or my wife or whoever, they want to, oh my goodness, I need to get a test.
Yeah.
There's some people that say if they get a test and it's negative, they think they can get off quarantine. That's not true. A negative test, if you're high risk exposure, you have to do your 14-day mandatory, and a negative test is not going to get out of quarantine early card. It doesn't mean anything.
Okay.
Now, the only thing that could help is if you're exposed to me, I'm positive, and you get a test and you're positive. Well, if you're positive and I'm positive, we're on that 10-day kind of thing together. Okay. So that's a whole other thing. It's like some people, it's when and why should you get a test? So if you think you've been exposed, high risk exposure, just generally speaking, you should get a test, right? If your job requires it, or if you're in a field that you're always interacting with the public, I would definitely start getting a test. Now, or if you're symptomatic, you get a test. But now, if you're someone who lives in your house gets positive, you're not symptomatic, you're gonna have to do 14 days no matter what. So I would not be going getting a test. I'm just do your 14 days.
Man, I really appreciate the way you're breaking this down. So a lot of us have been doing COVID recovery wrong. We've been doing quarantine wrong. People have been really like just kind of doing what they heard in the beginning, or pieces of it. Like, well, yeah, I'm going to stay in for a few days because I was around somebody. So 7 days is not enough. A lot of people are just staying around.
Now, the around somebody part, that's the key. Okay. So, okay, let's do another scenario, right? So say your coworker tests positive, but they're down the hall.
Yeah.
You have not been within 6 feet of them for 15 minutes. Maybe they walked past you and you spoke, and they were within 3 feet of you and they spoke and said hi to you, and they kept on moving.
Yeah.
And then that next day you found out that they were positive. Okay.
Okay.
You stay at work. That wasn't considered a high risk exposure because you weren't exposed to them for at least 15 minutes, even though they were up in your face. But because you're a lower risk exposure, you're exposed. They're not a high risk, right? So since you're a lower risk, you still work, but you just monitor yourself for symptoms. If you get any symptoms, then you'll get a test. So that's another thing. You don't have to panic. That's one of the things happening on the job. Is you find out that a coworker, rumor mill goes around, somebody on the job got positive. Then you're saying, how come nobody told me that somebody was positive at the job? And so you call up HR and you're complaining and saying, y'all trying to hide stuff from me. Well, no, your employer is supposed to notify the high risk contacts. And that's why the health department works with the employer. We call the employer and we'll find out, hey, you have somebody at your job we found out was positive and they were at work. And we will tell the administrator who your name, but then say you can't tell anybody who this person is. We just need you to help us do contact tracing. Who was working around such and such high risk, 6 feet, 15 minutes. They give us a list, and then we tell the employer, notify your employees anonymously. Say you've been exposed on the job. Don't say who it was, and then and they're going to say who it was. And they're not. If they say who it is, then that's a HIPAA violation.
It is.
So that's something that there's no way that you should know the name of your coworker who got COVID unless that coworker tells their own business. But
Absolutely.
if the boss says selling someone's name and without their permission, that's a HIPAA violation.
Dr. David Hicks is live right now on the Abby Award-winning Vital Show virtual studio, giving us the full business on COVID-19 coronavirus, as it has really just opened our eyes to so many new things in 2020. If I gave a pop quiz right now, I wonder how many of you would pass it. I see a couple of people on the stream. I don't see any comments on this side, other than the one about people are still contracting COVID-19 and dying. It's dangerous. People need to be well aware of what's happening. And I think that this platform right now with Dr. David Hicks is definitely giving us the information that we need to know to continue to do our part at eradicating COVID-19. So we were just talking about at that point, just testing and how the tests work. And this is more than I've gotten, like I said, even living through COVID. So I really, really, really appreciate this information. You look at more of the virus and its spread as opposed to what it does to people, right? You're looking at more of the environment with the health department.
Yeah, with the health department, but we've been doing COVID testing for our public safety, for like our first responders and for all the city municipal employees for months. And all those, when they go through the testing that we help set up at the health department, I'm the ordering doctor for all of those people. So if any of those people for the past, say, 4 months who tested positive, I've called them up directly and said, hey, you tested positive. And so they're telling me their experiences and the symptoms they have. So I directly am talking to people on a daily basis about their personal symptoms of COVID-19.
What are they saying? What are you hearing as the main symptoms?
Yeah, I mean, it's a mix. There's a lot of people talking about a lot of sinus congestion, stuffy nose, and you think, whoa, is that just your allergies or something like that? I've had a decent amount of people tell me they've lost a sense of taste or smell. Now, if you have that, there's no question that there's nothing else really that does that except for COVID. So that's highly suspicious for COVID. Some people have like achiness, flu-like, my muscles ache. I'm sore. I'm coughing. I may have a low-grade fever. So that's kind of the stuff. Some people have upset stomach, maybe stools. You'll usually see that more so in kids, but really, it's nothing. The only thing that's really particular COVID is that loss of sense of smell and taste typically, and anything else, you may just think it's like just a basic cold, and it could be COVID. Yeah.
With that sense of the loss of those senses. I didn't notice that. I didn't have loss of taste, but later on in the journey of COVID, I kind of noticed that my smelling was a little off. And it came at the end. It wasn't at the beginning.
Yeah, everybody's not going to get it. So we have a whole list of symptoms that people can experience, and you may get 1, 2, none of them, 5 of them. It all different, and then it shifts over time. So we have some people that start having little symptoms, then they get better. Then the second week they crash, and then they get so bad they have to go in the hospital. So that's why we have to wait for that either 10 to 14 day period of time to make sure you're out of the woods, because the second week is the week where most people that have to be put in the hospital will start getting really bad off. So, but it's a mix of symptoms all over. I have some people who I've called and they had a positive test. They had 0 symptoms and they thought that the test was a lie. Say, I don't believe the test result because I feel perfectly fine. Is it just is the test accurate? So you have a mix of having no symptoms to having full blown. I'm difficulty breathing. I'm coughing.
Like there's no doubt about it. Wow. So I want to ask you about the testing. Which test is the best? So the rapid.
I can tell you right now that the best test, best is quality of the results. Accuracy of the results is the PCR test. PCR stands for preliminary chain reaction. You don't got to memorize it. Basically, that's the one where we swab the nose. Now, sometimes the first version of it, we're going, deep, really far back into the sinuses. We still do that now, or you can just do it up into the front part of the nose. That's a PCR test. It takes days to get the results back. That's the most accurate one we have. Okay. Now, the other things you're hearing about is antigen tests. Those are those tests that get those quick, rapid results back, where you may get it in 15 minutes to 30 minutes. They are not as good. They're decent, but they're not as good. I will tell you, there are some reports now of false positive results particularly in people that, where they're really low risk anyway, and then they get the test done, the rapid test, and then it can say that it's positive and it's not a true positive. So,
wow.
So what happens is if you get that quick rapid test, some people are saying that you need to, in certain cases, you may have to piggyback and do that PCR test, which is the most accurate if it's questionable. So still, no matter what, the most accurate one is that nasal one, the one that goes up your nose. It's called a PCR test. There's also some new ones that are being developed. There's a saliva test where they're swabbing in the mouth. We're hearing about that. There's one in Canada, I think, where people are spitting saliva into a little jug and they're testing that way. So there's all these different ones that are coming out. Then the last one I want to mention is the blood test. That's the antibody test.
Okay.
That test. Let me back up. The first ones I talked about, nose swabbing or the rapid one, that test is telling you if you actively have COVID in your body right now.
Okay.
The antibody test, when they draw the blood, is seeing if you have been exposed to COVID in the past at some point. So that's the difference. And but no matter what, I'm telling you, everybody, the PCR test is the gold standard test to get done. And hopefully a lot of doctors now shifting to do just the nasal one that just goes a little bit up the nose. It doesn't hurt at all. And then there'll be more things developed over time. But the rapid one is a good thing, but it has limited, you gotta be careful with how you interpret the results. So the doctor has to really guide you through how to interpret it. So I'm not trying to knock it completely. I'm just telling you the benefits are as quick and rapid, and we can get all people get tested that way. The downside, it's not as accurate as the PCR test, and the PCR test takes a couple more days to get the results back.
Absolutely. You're speaking to my exact situation. I did the rapid test first, and it was negative. And the next day, I had an appointment to do the PCR, and it came back positive 24 hours later. And it came because I was high. I was in a traffic area where out of 8 people, 4 tested positive. And when you speak to airflow and all that type thing, I almost know that it came from us touching the same surface at our job, or hey, and talking into microphone. Like, I can almost say that's what happened. So got the negative test results on a Monday, had symptoms Monday night. Like, my legs were hurting so bad, I didn't know if I would ever be able to walk again. They were hurting that bad. And I was super sleeping. So I knew at that point, I was like, I may have it. I knew then, even though the test had said negative. The next day, went and took the other test, and I felt better the next day. I felt a little bit better. Took that test, it was positive. That started my quarantine time, and I documented my symptoms each day. So,
it could have been it could have been the differences between the test, but also could have been timing. Is that it didn't get detected enough on the first day as the virus was still growing and replicating in your body, and then the next day it really declared itself. So it's, it could be a little bit of both.
Okay. And it was nothing I could have done. We know there's no cure for COVID, but it's nothing I could have done in the midst of that virus replication to slow it down or stop it. Nothing that I could have done.
I mean, no. Once you're it's in your body, then it's just a matter of how strong your immune system is or how much you got exposed to, right? So somebody coughs in your face and they have COVID, that's a lot to hit your system at one time versus maybe you touch a surface and maybe a little bit gets in your system. So it's a lot of different factors that says why this person gets it versus that. I would really want people to be preventive as much as possible. So the prevention stuff, besides the things we've talked about with the hand sanitation and mask and all that stuff, there are reports about some vitamins, like, taking zinc and some multivitamins, vitamin C and B complex may be of benefit too. So that's just something, anyway, people should be probably taking a multivitamin no matter what. Right. And then so try to prevent it. And then if you get it, then you're going to make sure other people don't get it from you, protect others around you. And then you just got to do your part to, keep yourself hydrated, eat as much as you can healthy and keep your system up, just like you were fighting a bad cold or, bad flu.
Right. I want to share some comments, and then, of course, let you guys know that you can comment if you have any questions about COVID-19. I think this has been the most thorough conversation about COVID that we've had And we've had several conversations with several different people, but this is a great opportunity for you to get those questions in. Your experiences, if you've had COVID at any point throughout this process, let us know what you think. So the comment that I want to share says, really glad and thankful to hear Dr. David Hicks, Jefferson County Health Department, on Vital. He's a trusted voice and he talks on a level that we all can understand. Please know that I'm not saying that the other doctors aren't or don't, but this is different and it's a level for all to understand. So that's what I was speaking to also about, just your delivery of making this thing real for those in Jefferson County and around the world. Honestly, like, this has been very rewarding. Like, I feel like I'm in class, I'm interested in this science class.
Well, I appreciate it. I mean, I think one of the things is, as a doctor, I'm always aware, like, we could try to talk and use big fancy words and try to talk over people's head and try to act like we're super smart and saying all these things. And I'm not saying I'm trying to knock other people, but for me, the way I digest information is keep it simple that anybody can understand, right? But and so that I try to convey that, and just how we try to communicate in our messaging. It's just, anybody can explain it to someone else, and don't use the big fancy terms. So, it doesn't help us to use big terms. Right.
Simple. Thank you so much for that. So if you guys have any questions, any thoughts about COVID-19, if you just have anything you want to ask Dr. Hicks, just anyway, because I want to know more about you now. Like, where did you go to school? What made you get into this? How long have you been practicing? I want to know that type of stuff.
So I'm actually a native of New Jersey, and so I'm from the Northeast. My parents are from state of Georgia, so I have Southern roots, and I grew up in the Northeast. I went to med school in New Jersey as well, and before I went to med school, I went to public health school in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That's where I got my master's in public health. So I always wanted to do primary care prevention, at least since college time, and then I trained in Delaware. I was a chief resident there, and then I came down to Alabama, probably about 9 or so years ago. So I'm a family medicine trained doctor, but now I primarily, but the public health work is really mostly administrative supervisory job.
Awesome. So welcome to Alabama. I don't know if anybody said it that way to you or not in these 9 years, but welcome to Vital. So look, we got another comment. No, absolutely. We have a question. It's a double question. What if you were tested and have not heard the results yet? Should I assume that it was negative or contact the doctor?
Never assume it's negative. Never. Always contact the doctor. Sometimes there's a patient portal where you can get your results, or you call the phone number. Before you get the test, I would actually ask, what's the turnaround time? When should you get the results back? The goal should be about 48 hours, but some labs might be more days. But just don't ever assume it's negative.
Okay. So don't assume that it's negative. Thanks, Ralph. Ralph says, great show. Hopefully you're getting some great information. You started off talking about the churches, and a lot of people are really craving that spiritual fellowship with others. Like, if we, the governor of Florida said months ago, if you can go to Lowe's and Walmart, you can go back to school, or we can open the world back up. When you talk about churches, do you see it in the foreseeable future quickly that will be something that can happen?
That's difficult, and I'll just tell you this. So you asked about my background. I'm a preacher's kid, so I've been in church from day one. So I'm really, I'm really sensitive, and with the churches, I understand. I mean, your mental health and the spiritual makeup is something that we don't focus on. So we talk about the physical body, but we're a whole unit, and body, mind, soul, spirit. So it's critically important to nurture ourselves spiritually. I think virtually is the best we have at this point in time. I know we had a call, I don't know, maybe it was 3-4 months ago, where we had some pastors on the phone call, and they were asking about going back into service. And I think the challenge is you would have to have people on, either alternating pews, right, households clustered together. But think about a couple things. You pass an offering plate around. That's hand touching, contact services, right? Are they going to be cleaning between one service versus the next service? What about that ventilation system? We were talking to some pastors, and depending on how the duct system is, you could be transmitting things through inadvertently. The other concern is you have the choirs, where you have those powerful, strong voices pushing out air. So imagine if they just projecting out to the audience? Or what if you have a facility where you have a balcony where people are spreading someone on that balcony and they're breathing or shouting out and going down? So, you know, and it's like I said, it sounds like I'm picking on churches. I just think that any setting where you concentrate people is higher risk, and you just got to be really careful and aware. So I think there's a way churches can do it. There is a level of risk. The question is, do you want to assume that risk? And I understand. And so how can you get that spiritual nurturing as a combination? So I saw this, you know, I know the cathedrals across AOH Church. We did some COVID testing there, and I went out there on a Sunday afternoon as they were kind of wrapping up, and they had the drive up service. You drove up, and so they were out there on the microphones speaking, but you can dial into the radio station and sit there and still get a sense of community in the church, but you were in your private vehicle. So I think there's a lot of creative ways you can get at it. But I still, until those levels get really down, I don't think that it's time to go back into church, particularly these big churches where everyone's packed in together. And I don't like that, but I think that's a wise thing to do.
Okay. I mean, churches, concerts, I was trying to think of something to like wrap that up so people can understand and know we are not picking on, or you are not picking on certain things or certain places, but those are those type places.
Well, I would tell you, even nightclubs too. I mean, we got pictures in Birmingham and other places where everyone thinks that at nighttime no one's paying attention, right? So now we can all pack in and go to the club and or whatever, and people are outside of the club congregating trying to get in, and then when you get in, everyone's packed together. That's really bad.
Churches, clubs, concerts equals COVID. Okay, so I just wrote that equation down. I am loving this conversation. Ms. Belinda said, thanks for the information. So yeah, we are trying to help you guys figure out COVID from another aspect. We've been, like I said, we've had this conversation so many different ways just to stress the importance of it. You can't be clean enough. You can't be safe enough during this thing, but we want to make sure that you are very much aware of everything that's happening, the changes that are happening, the new information that's being discovered, and that you're just taking your time with COVID-19, because it is not taking its time with us, but we have to take our time and adjust. So Dr. Hicks, I thank you for all of the information. There's something else that I wanted to talk about before we go: herd immunity or community immunity, and how people are growing not immune to COVID, but we see that the death numbers are lessening as well. What's happening? The reason that that's able to happen.
All right. So talk about the last part first. You talk about the death rate. So we've never had a super high death rate when you compare to other illnesses. That just means that if you get COVID, you're not as likely to die from it as maybe something else. Now, why that is, I think particularly like, you know, if you have an area that have a lot of healthcare resources, great hospital systems. So if you get sick and you are hospitalized, they have a lot of ventilators and medicines and great doctors and nurses that'll take care of you. So you're going to survive. Okay. But what you have to be careful with but there's a lot of people that instead of having people dying from it, you don't only want to focus on death. It's how many people are impacted and have it right now. So how many days you've lost going to work? Did you spread it to somebody who was more vulnerable? You know, there's other things like, for example, we have public safety personnel, police officers, fire and rescue that have lost their whole shifts out for work. So it strains that system in its correctional institutions. You know, if you lose all your security, it's a really unsafe environment. So, and then obviously loss of jobs, economic impact. So COVID, focusing on just death rate, is not telling the whole story of how devastating COVID is to society. But you're right. If you're going to get COVID, you're not likely to die from it like some other, like Ebola, for example. If you get Ebola virus, you know, I mean, you're likely going to die. I mean, it's high chance you're going to die. So this is not like that, but it's still something to take serious, just like we talk about the flu. Now you talked about herd immunity. So herd immunity, the herd is group of people, the community has a certain level of immunity they develop. All right. So there's two ways to get herd immunity. Really, is if you let enough people get sick naturally, then they build up antibodies naturally. Hopefully they're strong enough, and that means they can't get reinfected anytime soon. So enough of the herd has immune protection, and so the disease can't hop from that person to the next person anymore, and it kind of fizzles out.
Yeah.
The problem with herd immunity, trying to achieve it that way, is the antibody protection from COVID-19. We don't even think it lasts for maybe more than 4, maybe 5 months.
Okay.
So if herd immunity really works good if you're going to have immune system protection for months and months or years. Because what happens is you will never get enough of the herd to be infected, because once your immunity runs out, so say you get COVID in January, you have immune system protection for 4 months.
Okay.
You could get reinfected in September. You're not protected anymore from COVID. So that's why COVID is different than some of these other ones. Now, the other way to get herd immunity is mass vaccination. You vaccinate a whole bunch of people all at the same time as much as possible. But we still have to figure out, is the vaccine, how good is that vaccine, right? We don't know if it's going to be 1 dose or 2. It may be one or maybe different manufacturers make a 1-shot version or 2-shot version. But then how long does the immunity last? And we have to wait and see. Is it like natural immunity, 4 months, 5 months, or is it going to be 6 months or a year? So to get herd immunity, you need to get enough people to build up antibodies for a prolonged amount of time. And mass vaccination is the best, I think, the safest way to do it, to minimize the number of people that potentially could die from COVID, but maximize the number of people that have immune system protection.
Okay, gotcha. So those of us who have had COVID have built antibodies. Those of us, so like for me, it was September. So October, November, December, January. By the time the new year hits and the weather changes, I could get COVID again. That's the first thing.
And that's why you can't let your guard down. And see, a couple of things. Now, remember, this is all theoretical. Your immune system could give you 5 months of protection. My immune system could give me 3 months of protection. So it's different. It's a little different. So the average may be 4 months, but who knows how much protection you have? So if you assume you have 5 months, and you don't wear your mask, you don't social distance, and then you get it, then you say, they said I couldn't get it. That doesn't make any sense. So that's why we still need people to still wear those masks. And that's why you heard me earlier, you were talking about antibody tests, and I wasn't really talking about pushing antibody testing, because we don't want antibody testing to give people a false sense of security. You get an antibody test, you say, oh, I have antibodies. I don't have to wear a mask anymore. I'm protected. Yeah. That might only be 5 more days of protection left. You don't know. So we got to be careful.
Right. Thank you for that. I'm going to keep wearing my mask. I'm going to keep washing my hands. I'm going to keep staying out the way. You can talk directly to our viewers. And I just want to let you guys know that I will be back in studio starting on tomorrow. So like I really took my time at going back, Dr. Hicks. So I'll be back in studio tomorrow, and fresh off of a birthday. So the celebration continues. But thank you much. I want to make sure that we chat once the live ends. But for any of you that have any questions, be sure to get them in before we go. You guys know that we end at 8:50-ish on air, but I have the power to do what I want on my laptop. So if you want to stay on a little bit longer, you guys start sending questions. We will definitely get to them. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you would just want people to know? Like, what do people need to know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The importance of getting a flu vaccine. Okay. So you don't want to get COVID and flu at the same time, because then you're more likely to get sicker and may have to go in the hospital. Also, we don't want our hospitals to get overwhelmed with people that have similar symptoms. They're going to treat you as if you have COVID. You may have the flu. Our hospitals get overrun. Then we can't take care of people that have non-flu-like COVID symptoms. So we want to have the lowest number of people with the flu, so we can focus on this COVID thing as much as well. So that's really important. Now is the time to get your flu vaccine. So everyone get a flu shot. I got mine. I wouldn't ask you to do anything I haven't done myself. And then going back to school, a lot of schools are trying to open back up. So we got to be really careful. The schools are really doing a great job. But as more kids come back, it's more risk. So for parents and guardians, really stress the importance of the kids wearing their masks during school. Now, they've been doing a phenomenal job. Even the young kids are keeping these masks on during school. But just you want to model the behavior. So if you're kind of if you're not doing it when you're going out or you're going to grocery store or then the kids are getting mixed messages because they're hearing it at school one thing. So you have to model the behaviors that we want. Even if you disagree with it, you may think that we're crazy, but we need everybody to model the behavior, and the young people are looking up to everyone else. And then finally, the 18 to 24-year-old crowd, that college age, kind of high school graduate crowd, are high risk of spreading it, even though you're not high risk of getting really deathly sick with it. So you have to do your part. This is you being a grown-up. If man up, woman up. If you want to be treated as an adult, you have to make adult responsible decisions. And part of being an adult is being responsible for your community and taking care of people around you and your loved ones. So you have to do your part, particularly that younger age group, because that's the group that's spreading it to people that can't fight it off as easy as younger people can.
Thank you so much for that. When you talk about being a responsible adult, I just always think about leadership, and leadership shows like that's the model for society. So like if we had leaders that took COVID seriously and wore a mask and social distance and did what they were supposed to do, I honestly believe that we would see a bigger difference in what's happening with coronavirus. But hey, that's just my opinion. Anita Moore has a question, and she says, so are you saying that we need to be tested every 5 months?
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying, what I meant by that is, if you get positive, do not get another test for at least 3 months. That's an official CDC recommendation. Once you're positive, because you don't want to get caught in this, that I keep on testing positive and I'm not contagious anymore. Now, but what I'm saying is that after that 3 month span of time, if you become symptomatic or you think you're getting exposed, absolutely get another test done as frequently as you feel you need to. I can't tell you, should you get it every week or every 2 weeks or whatever. It all depends on your level of exposure. So look about your lifestyle and your work and school and all those things. And so if you're always around the public, or particularly like say you're a cashier or you're a greeter at Walmart, the public is always in your face. So I would say you get tested frequently. How frequently? I don't know. It could be once a week, once every 2 weeks. Wow. But you should get tested just to stay on top of it. But if you're in a private office or in a cubicle and no one else is really around you and everyone's wearing their mask and doing the right thing, I don't think you need to go get tested all the time. Only if you get sick or you hear that someone around you may have been exposed or got you exposed.
Okay, so know where you are and what your lifestyle consists of, and that kind of dictates when you should get tested, and then especially if you've been exposed or if you have symptoms. All right. So guys, I really, really thank you guys for tuning in and asking your questions, sharing your comments. Dr. Hicks, thank you so much for coming on to Vital tonight and giving this awesome information about something that we've been hearing so much about, but in a very palatable way. So I think you made it easier and almost convinced me about, like, when you think about the flu vaccine. I remember when I did get it, the last time I got it, I knew that I was sick because of the vaccine. So I hadn't done it since then, because I was just like, if the vaccine made me as sick as this did, I was kind of just on the fence about maybe I'll get the flu. But I think now I understand way better. Like, I've been educated tonight as to how I know how deadly the flu is. We know that, but I don't want the flu and COVID at the same time.
Yeah, and I'll just real quick, just for everybody, the flu shot, it's impossible for the flu shot to give you flu. Now, but what happens though, and what you're talking about, Lady Wu, is there's a decent amount of people when they get that vaccine. Matt, the vaccine is a foreign thing that's going inside your body, right? Yeah. And your immune system is supposed to say, attack it. Something's foreign in me. What is this? So, and that's what the flu shot's supposed to do. It's supposed to, it gives you a piece of the flu virus, not the full live virus, but a piece of it, enough to recognize that this is foreign. It looks like the flu. Let's build up immune system protection. What Lady Wu, what happened to you is your immune system, like a lot of people, went to overdrive. It was like, this is foreign. I got to really attack this thing. And when your immune system goes into overdrive, you feel achy, stuffy, congested. You may get actually a little low-grade fever. But it feels like you have the flu. Like, it feels like I know I feel sick. Yeah, you do feel sick. But I'm saying technically it's not because you have flu virus floating in your body that's causing it. It's your immune system went in overdrive. So my only counter to that would be, yes, that can happen. And for you, it can happen again. Maybe, maybe not. But I would just think about this. That feeling compared to the real flu virus is two different things. So I know you maybe didn't feel too great for a couple days, but if you got the real flu, it would be like quadruple the times as bad.
Okay.
So I would rather feel little kind of aching down for a couple days as the worst case scenario versus rolling the dice, getting flu. Because everybody I know that said they've gotten the flu said they don't never want to get it again. They felt absolutely miserable.
I mean, I honestly think I'm like some type of champ or something because I felt horrible during COVID, survived it. I felt horrible I had walking pneumonia, survived it, felt good afterwards. I lived to tell about it, flu the same, but that doesn't mean that I want to get either of them again. So I'm definitely going to get the flu vaccine, Dr. Hicks. Okay.
Thanks.
All right. So you guys, this has been a great show. We're going to do this again. Oh, Anita says, I have never taken a flu shot. So Anita, we got to get our flu shot. Okay. And everybody's everywhere trying to get people to take them. My daughter and I were checking out at Walmart and the guy from the pharmacy was at the line asking people if they had it, like, go on over, we're doing flu shots. And I was like, okay. So go to Walmart and get it.
There's a local grocery store chain. I won't name them, but if you get a flu shot, I heard they give you a $10 voucher.
Okay, we like a voucher. Okay, then. So, guys, make sure you do what you need to do to protect the herd. Get out here and get your flu vaccine, wear your mask, wash your hands, social distance. What else do we need to do, Dr. Hicks? And we are out of here after you tell us.
And cough etiquette. So you want to cough into your elbow and not out in the open. And then make sure you protect your loved ones, pass the message on, model the behaviors that you want your young people to do and your neighbors. So you have to live by example.
Awesome. You have a good night.
Good night.